It's estimated that China is stealing up to $600 billion in U.S. trade secrets every year. And there's an active campaign by the U.S. government to stop the spying and stealing of American technology. But there are cases where the hunt for spies turns on the innocent.
These armed agents, with their gun drawn and running into the house and running around and yell, FBI, FBI.
What thoughts went through your mind?
This week, we look at the process and prospects when a good objective goes wrong.
America's half-century-old war on drugs has been called a failure. The U.S. is still a top consumer of cocaine. Now, America's top supplier is calling it quits.
I propose that we put an end to the war on drugs.
We report from Colombia, where the cocaine cartel is legend, to look at a policy that may be dangerous.
Do you think there's a chance it could make matters worse?
See.
And an open conversation about the pressures we're facing in the rush to green energy and the realities of what it's going to take to keep the lights on.
I think we need, just like your financial portfolio, it needs to be balanced, and you cannot put all your eggs in one basket.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. We've long reported about the need to protect American technology amid Chinese efforts to steal it. But today's cover story makes the case for the possibility that the way we're doing it is causing more harm than good and leading to innocent scientists being charged as spies. As the Chinese proverb says, a bad beginning makes a bad ending.
Physicist Zhao Shi says his rude awakening came early one morning in May of 2015.
These armed agents, with their gun drawn and running into the house and running around and yell, FBI, FBI. And so they ordered my wife and two daughters coming out of their bedrooms with their hands raised. And it was very, very scary.
She says he couldn't imagine what he'd done wrong. At the end of a 2-hour interrogation at FBI offices in Philadelphia, the agents finally answered his question about why he was arrested.
And that's when they told me for having made a device called a pocket heater for my Chinese collaborator, which was totally false. And I knew it could not possibly be true.
What thoughts went through your mind?
Well, the very first word I uttered was, that's absurd.
The FBI accused Shi of sending colleagues in China sensitive information about a superconductor device called a pocket heater. Temple University removed him as chair of its physics department, and his nightmare was officially underway. But it turns out the FBI was mixed up. Actually, Shi's communications with his Chinese colleagues were disclosed, perfectly legal, and had nothing to do with pocket heaters.
Did you ever figure out how the government got confused and thought that you were working on a pocket heater instead of what you were really working on?
What we do know is that the FBI agent who investigated my case made up evidence, and he was told that I was not talking about the pocket heater before he went ahead and charged me. My legal team contacted top experts in my research field, and they provided affidavits. So we gave them all my communications with my Chinese collaborators. And they look at them and they say, well, all these emails are not about pocket heater. They are about the research of his own. And so my lawyer made a presentation to the government, and then a few weeks after that, they dropped the case.
She is suing the government, accusing law enforcement agents of abusing the legal process by obtaining indictments and search warrants based on misrepresentations or by fabricating evidence. The FBI denies wrongdoing. By most accounts, the U.S. has good reason to worry about Chinese efforts to steal American intellectual property and technology, as this FBI video explains.
Behind the scenes,
It is a complex relationship where each country sees the other as a potential adversary.
It's estimated that China is stealing up to $600 billion in U.S. trade secrets every year.
The Chinese Communist Party will pull out all the stops to obtain technology from the West, and even use members of academia to help them meet one of their top strategic goals: modernizing their military.
But Xi insists his case and others like it aren't protecting American technology, they're doing the opposite, having a chilling effect on foreign-born scientists who are helping the U.S. fill a critical science and technology gap.
So, you're talking about these people stealing secret or intellectual property. These people are the people who are creating these intellectual properties. The former Secretary of Energy, Stephen Chu, was saying, this is not just shooting at your foot, you're shooting at your head, right? Driving away all these talents who are making these important discoveries and innovations.
Watchdogs say Xi's case, where federal officials charged the wrong man and even allegedly falsified evidence, is part of a disturbing pattern of scientists racially targeted because they're Chinese.
Were you familiar with the case of Wen-Ho Lee when this happened to you?
We all know of that case, yes.
Wen-Ho Lee was a Chinese-American computer scientist who was at the center of a story I broke internationally more than 20 years ago while reporting for CBS News. China had secretly obtained some of America's most sensitive nuclear weapons secrets. The FBI wrongly blamed Lee, calling him a spy. And as I reported, the FBI lied about Lee's polygraph. They claimed he'd failed when he'd passed it with flying colors. He was held in solitary confinement for 9 months, but never charged with spying. After FBI misconduct was revealed, Lee pleaded guilty to just 1 count of mishandling data, no spy charges, and was released with an extraordinary apology. The judge said those who led Lee's prosecution embarrassed our entire nation and each of us who is a citizen in it. President Bill Clinton also questioned his Justice Department's actions.
I think that it's very difficult to reconcile the two positions. That one day he's a terrible risk to the national security, and the next day they're making a plea agreement for an offense far more modest than what had been alleged.
But no apologies from Attorney General Janet Reno, whose department pursued the questionable prosecution.
I think Dr. Lee had the opportunity from the beginning to resolve this matter, and he chose not to, and I think he must look to himself.
Lee eventually sued and won a settlement from the federal government and the New York Times, the Associated Press, the LA Times, the Washington Post, and ABC. His daughter later spoke about the larger questions her father's example raised.
What are the steps necessary for you or for Chinese American or second generation immigrants to deal with this problem and not to make this thing happen again?
I think the ideal is always that people will perceive you as an individual and not as a stereotype. But I don't know how to combat racism. I wish I knew how.
Wen-Ho Lee's case may have faded from the headlines over the years, but a string of more recent examples raises similar questions. In 2013, 2 Chinese-American scientists at Eli Lilly were charged with passing valuable secrets to a Chinese drug company. A year later, charges were dropped. It turned out the information was neither secret nor proprietary. In 2014, a Chinese-American at the National Weather Service, Sherry Chen, was arrested after she sent information to an old classmate in China. Charges were dropped after it was determined the material wasn't secret and had been publicly available. Last November, Chen, like Wen-Ho Lee, won a taxpayer-funded payment from the federal government, $1.5 million. In 2020, the FBI arrested a Chinese-American doctor at the Cleveland Clinic for alleged improper, undisclosed research ties to China. He was fired. More than a year later, his case also dropped.
And in looking at the other side, in fairness, there is a Chinese threat to our technology. I think it's well established. How would You think it'd be better balanced that the United States is vigilant in protecting its technology and its secrets, but at the same time not accusing innocent people of doing something wrong?
I want to say that the fact that the Department of Justice is spending this much resource on these innocent Chinese-American academics, the question I would ask is, are they really catching real spies, right? Are they spending taxpayers' money responsibly in protecting our country?
How did this impact your life?
Oh, that's dramatic. That's significant. Most people do not realize that when the government charges somebody, it's not necessarily true, right? They all assume that the government charged somebody, this guy must have done something wrong. So we always carry that, stigma, right? And we must have done something wrong. So that's very damaging.
The FBI declined our interview request, but has denied racially targeting scientists of Chinese descent. FBI Director Director Wray was asked about the subject at an appearance last December.
But then sometimes there are criminal cases. You mentioned some that we lost, some that we dropped. There, of course, have been quite a few that we won as well. And I respect the decisions of juries and judges that have found against us.
She says he's determined to try to help make it where other Chinese-American scientists don't share a similar life-altering experience.
One thing is the fear that it created in our mind, right? Not only my mind, my wife, my daughters. We all learned how government can twist something, which is nothing, to charge somebody, right? Even if they are innocent.
Prosecutors recently asked a judge to dismiss criminal charges against a New York City police officer and Army reservist whom the FBI had charged with being a Chinese spy in 2020. When we return, we're off to Colombia to learn about a surprising turn in the war on drugs. President Richard Nixon officially declared the war on drugs in 1971. Trillions of tax dollars later, by nearly every account, that war has failed. A record amount of the opioid fentanyl is crossing in through our southern border, and a record number of Americans are dying from drugs. Now, the new leader of our most important partner in the drug war, Colombia, has also declared failure and announced a controversial change in strategy, as Scott Thuman reports.
Colombia's capital, Bogota. Busy, noisy, but peaceful. Not that long ago, a very different scene here. At the height of the war against the cocaine cartels, Colombia faced an epidemic of violence. Thousands of people, from judges to police officers, drug traffickers, and civilians, were killed or injured. But when infamous drug lord Pablo Escobar was finally killed by Colombian police with U.S. help, it didn't end the conflict or American financing for a war on drugs, begun in 1971 by President Richard Nixon.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse.
As federal money targeted dealers and traffickers, President Reagan and First Lady Nancy tried to convince people to stop using illegal drugs.
Say yes to your life. And when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
And each successive administration has kept spending taxpayer money, more than $12 billion alone going to Colombia to help eradicate coca crops, the plant from which cocaine is derived. President Biden sent his Secretary of State to Bogota last October at a time of great change for Colombia, as the country inaugurated a new leftist president, Gustavo Petro.
Democrática
He grabbed the world's attention at a United Nations meeting.
The war against drugs has failed. I propose that we put an end to the war on drugs and make it possible for our people to live in peace.
Much of Colombia's coca is produced in the remote mountainous regions of the country. President Petro says he wants to incentivize farmers to grow other crops. It's an old idea that failed when tried before. But Petro says he won't return to the tactic of aerial spraying to destroy coca. While these new ideas on how to fight the war on drugs here in Colombia to many seem radical, others say they don't go nearly far enough. Regardless, there is a consensus that what has been tried here over the last 60 years or so hasn't worked. Retired police general Fernando Murillo Orrego fought the cartels for decades. The new president is suggesting a wide range of new policies that some people would call radical. What do you think of them?
Estas organizaciones transnacionales.
For these transnational organizations, the only thing that matters is criminal and financial power, to make more money every day. So it is very difficult, given the proposals that are being advanced, to say that Colombia will be the country that is going to put an end to drug trafficking.
Do you think there's a chance it could make matters worse?
Yes, and we are already seeing it. The increase we are seeing in drug seizures is because there is an increase in production.
He's right. Production was up last year with more than 500,000 acres of coca plants being cultivated, a 43% increase from just the year before. Rodrigo Uprimi is a professor at the National University of Colombia and an expert on drug policy.
I think that the so-called war on drugs have been a total failure. If the logic was that you would use the criminal instruments in order to suppress the supply and this way to diminish the abuse of drugs, then it's a total failure.
Here in Colombia, there is a discussion of legalizing and controlling the sale of some drugs like marijuana, just as several U.S. states and Washington, D.C. already do. But for Colombia's president, he says his biggest issue is not necessarily in his country, it is in ours. Customs agents at U.S. border posts from California to Puerto Rico are continually seizing massive hauls of cocaine, a reminder that America remains Colombia's #1 customer for drugs. Brigadier General Carlos Triana, the current federal police chief in Bogota, says as long as America keeps buying, Colombia will keep growing.
It
is a profitable business, and since it is a profitable business, we continue to confront it.
Do you want America to do more? Does America need to add more help, more resources?
It will never be enough. Supply and demand means there needs to continue confronting this phenomenon.
But in Colombia, where there seems to be an endless supply of souvenir T-shirts and trinkets of Pablo Escobar, once the most wealthy criminal in the world, lore and legacy of cocaine will likely last beyond any president or policy. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman in Bogota, Colombia.
And coming up next, should there be a green energy pause? Nebraska, Indiana, New Mexico, and Wisconsin have all delayed the planned closing of coal plants. The latest sign that green energy transition ambitions aren't quite ready for prime time. One Wisconsin Public Service Commissioner, Ellen Nowak, is calling for a pause and a reassessment of the national strategy as she says more people are starting to awaken to reality. It seems impossible to predict what is doable far down the road when it comes to green energy. Things are changing so quickly. Are we setting goals and then just trying to meet them regardless of whether we can, or are we looking realistically at what the goal can be?
It's more of the former. It's easy for a politician to set a goal that needs to be met 30 years after they're out of office. There's no accountability there. You need to work with the people that actually run the grid and then tell you what is achievable and be flexible along the way versus having hard and fast rules.
Do you have any thoughts about the idealistic goals we have versus the reality of, is this really reducing the carbon footprint?
So it's clean emitting, but it's not necessarily clean to produce the energy, the green energy that we want. So the production of the solar panels themselves require an extraordinary amount of environmental impact. There's mining involved. That is not an emission-free source. Same as with the electric vehicles. The production of the electric vehicle itself, that's not a carbon-free process. So we're also focused on, well, it's a carbon-free, there's no emissions from the car. Okay, but what did it take to get there? And as you look at the holistic picture, do we come out ahead?
If you could talk about a framework you would like to see, just a general outline in the next 10, 20 years. You talked about a pause, but what would you like to see happen?
So I think we still need to have an all-of-the-above energy policy. It wasn't that long ago that as a country we talked about that. I am absolutely supportive of moving towards more renewables. We all breathe the same air. We all want clean air. We have made tremendous strides in reductions of carbon over the last 2 decades, especially here in Wisconsin. But I think we need, just like your financial portfolio, it needs to be balanced. And you cannot put all your eggs in one basket. I don't like to talk about we should eliminate a certain type of fuel source because you never know what the future is going to hold. And I think right now we are too focused on the pros of some sort resources and not the cons, and vice versa with the fossil-based. That is a reliable, and we need to definitely move towards a more nuclear future, whether it's maybe more the small nuclear facilities. Large are very expensive to build and difficult. So I think we need to keep moving all of the above, optimize the resources. Let's not eliminate resources. That's short-sighted.
The United Nations, meanwhile, continues to put the gas on green energy. It recently said that supplies from low carbon emitting sources need to double by 2030 if the world's going to reach the goal of being net zero. We'll be right back. Coming up next week on Full Measure, during the COVID pandemic, a record number of people were denied medicine with legally written prescriptions, including for ivermectin.
To have that denied, especially when our physician contacted them directly and said, this is the correct prescription, this is the correct dosage, you need to fill this for my patient, and no was the answer, I won't do this. In fact, it even ended up with our doctor becoming more firm and saying, no, you need to fill this, and the pharmacist at Walmart hung up on her.
An important debate about the power to prescribe medicine next week on Full Measure. Until then, we'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable. Thanks for watching. I'm Sharyl Attkisson.